Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host.
All right, today I got Matt Cascardi, friend of mine, software developer, a person that actually helped me out really early on in my career. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how he started his own business, freelancing, origin story, how he got into software. But before we get into that, when I was first learning to code, I think I went on Facebook or something like that. And I just put up a post like, who can help me code, something like
Yep, you
that. And
put
you
it on
reached out
Facebook and on
and then,
Twitter.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, whoa, damn, that's crazy. And you're like the person that reached out. I hadn't spoken to you in a while, or even really knew you were in software. So Matt, I'm curious, first of all, what are you working on now? What are you doing?
Sure. I'm working on a WordPress multi-site instance right now for an education company called Stride, or K-12. And all of the public schools and these are tuition-free online schools that they run and they support all have their own sites. And so we have about 65 or so live sites now that are migrated from the previous platform. But these are all schools which are, Stride's customers. And that's really who we
Very cool.
support. Yeah.
Sweet. How long have you been coding for in general? Like when I met you, you're
hmm
already kind of into your career, it felt like.
Yeah.
How long in total have you been coding?
I have been coding since about 2008. Seriously,
Wow.
2008,
Nice.
2009 is when I kind of peg it because that's when I really focused on that in most of my spare time. And what I didn't know,
Okay.
I learned.
I want to interrupt really quickly to let you know that this is the last week to get a discount at Parsity. If you're serious about joining, go down to the show notes. There's links to all sorts of free stuff, as well as a link to schedule a quick chat with me if you want to learn more about Parsity. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled programming.
And yeah, I'm curious about that too. How did you learn? You're self-taught completely, right?
hmm Yeah, that's really true. Now, it doesn't mean that I went to school and I studied psychology, and a lot of the skills and the things I learned there, I find really useful in web development and also in the things that it does for people or the way that customers come in. User behavior is super important in understanding web and why we need to develop certain things and what works. And understanding traffic and statistics, and analytics around that is super helpful to have uh, those educational things
Yeah.
to bring in. But yeah, classically, I'm not an engineer or have not gone to technical college or anything like some people may.
That's cool. You bring up the psychology aspect of working on the web and customers. I think a lot of people take that for granted. They don't think about,
Yeah,
oh, that actually is a really
I
helpful
would.
mental model to have when
Yeah,
you're working on the web.
I would say some of the most important things you can know after the programming part of it is really turning around and looking at it from the user's perspective and looking at all of your users and thinking about that. Because the whole reason we want to increase conversion rates, or the whole reason we want our websites to load faster or appear more intuitive to navigate or to uh, guide people into what we want them to do.
Before we get too deep into freelance, I'm
Yeah.
sure the people that are listening that are mostly new to coding will really want to learn specifically about that. Um, I want to kind of go further in. You learned to code, but what did you start learning to be able to get to a freelance position?
Okay.
Can you kind of take me there? What did
Yes.
you learn?
So
How did you learn it? And then what told you, hey, I have
yeah,
enough knowledge at this point
step
to charge
one
for it.
was to set something up for myself. All I well, my first objective was to get WordPress and figure out how to install it. That's it. Because when you have one of those, you have a little baby, you have something you can take and clone for somebody else. So now, you kind of needed another person to build something for. So you need two things, like I want to know how to set up the system so if somebody asks me for it, I could do it. And then the second part of that is like I need some project to do,
Yeah.
and kind of
Right.
build something for them. But like what they want is part of the whole the entire project. I'd say so. Build sites for people for free, and I built about 5 or 10 pilot, and that became a portfolio. As long as you have the links to those sites and they're up, uh, it's a link that you can use to send people if they ever ask you, like, "Do you have something I can see already that you've done?" That's pretty much what they're gonna
Yeah.
ask. Um, and that is your pitch.
And so for the sites that you've built, like, so I generally tell like boot camp grads or people that are trying to get into the industry, like your portfolio doesn't matter so much, but as a freelancer, your
Yeah.
portfolio is super important,
Uh-huh.
right? Because that's what all your clients want to
Sure.
see. So that's like an important distinction, I think, for people listening. But as a web developer now, like just your last couple of jobs, does anybody ask to see your portfolio for like their
No,
full
they
time software engineering
I want
roles?
to tell them about the companies I worked for.
Yeah,
And
right.
then those
Yeah,
are longer
exactly.
term, positions that I've held, so it kind of has a different, your resume kind of looks different. It doesn't look
For
like,
sure.
all the people you've been with, hopefully. I think it's a red flag if you see kinda too many prior positions. I'm talking, like, within a year or less, a 2 to
Yeah.
3-year
Yeah.
stint. I have a couple long stints under my belt for sure. Um Tech does move kind of fast, but when you're contracting or when you're working contracts for other businesses, they do tend to end, or you tend to move positions or for whatever reason. But you really want to talk about your successes and your experiences and your experiences within those teams at different times more than you do name drop, like on your resume. Uh I feel like in
Yeah.
the interview
Yeah.
process, I do feel like there is kind of an elitism. So you are going to want to
For
name
sure.
drop for sure
Hmm.
at the forefront. So for people freelancing versus people interviewing, I think this is a two different approaches.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make that distinction because people get so hung up on the portfolio thing. I'm like, yeah, as a freelancer, for sure, do it. So you started with WordPress.
Hmm.
Would you still suggest, like, if you're starting off right now, what would you be using potentially to build websites? Would you still use WordPress? What would you suggest
Uh,
people maybe
uh,
start with?
I'm so biased. I feel like I can't honestly
Yeah,
answer that question because
sure.
I WordPress is a very large, dominant, uh, mainstay like in the CMS world, but it is on the way out. It is a little bit past its peak in terms of the other frameworks that are moving forward. Headless CMSs mostly are eclipsing um, and taking over more of that market share from WordPress. But there's so much
Mhm.
architecture built around WordPress, anyways, that it's an open system, it's an open platform, it's pretty much a DIY person's dream, and that's how I feel about it. Because
Okay.
if you want to use WordPress to use the basic editor, define a few custom themes and like leave it at that, you can do that. If you want to start with an absolute white page, you can do everything if you want to code it yourself and
Okay.
anywhere in between. And if you want to find a plugin,
Yeah.
you can find a good plugin to use, or you can write your own plugin, and it's like it's kind of open space for like if you want to roll your own, you could do that. It all to me is more appealing to roll your own than to take something off the box. But I will say that half of the time on a project, if you're starting off with a new project, what you want to do is look for something out of the box that's about 80% of what they initially had in mind. And then
Yeah.
you
Very
really
good point.
take the last 20% to tailor it for them. But don't get too hung up on writing it all from scratch because you can. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super good point as well. I think too many people get caught up like, oh, is this cheating or something? And you got to think, what does the customer really want? Like, they don't care really what you used or if you
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
template,
You're there
whatever.
to put the
How?
different pieces. You're there to put the pieces together.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
How did you get your first customer?
One of the early ones I had was for somebody who was making art, and I have some of these paintings in the background here. Still have them, and it's dated '08. Matter of fact. So
Oh,
that
okay.
was one of the first like physical checks I got from a client that my other partner and I um, pitched him on a website for his art and got like a check for eight
And
hundred
turn into a
dollars
contract. Wow.
after on a live pitch in a room with this guy. That was the first time that that happened. Now the partner I was with was extremely effective in closing the sale and and that kind of thing. So there was a lot to learn for me to
That's
learn
helpful.
about that too. Actually, one of the jobs I had before was actually telemarketing, and telemarketing
Oh,
was something
I'm
that
sure that
really
came in
helped
handy,
me
right?
in learning how to pitch people in general.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, learning the art of sales. Like I did a freelance. I did quite a lot of freelance with one guy for a while. He didn't know how to code super well, but he was great at sales, and he'd get all these contracts and he'd subcontract me. So I was like always helping him out, and I did like I don't know, half a dozen over a year for him,
Hmm.
and it was really cool. But it showed me that learning the art of sales is super important. If you were doing this again now,
Hmm.
trying to get customers with like being on social media and that being such a powerful tool, would you use the same strategy or do you think you'd do something different?
I would do a lot of it the same. Well, I'm thinking about not knowing how to code, but actually, if I was the engineer I am today, and I went back, what I would do is start by finding out who's around you, uh, because the best thing you could use is not to say that you could do everything yourself, but you know somebody who can. If I need business cards or I need a new press kit or something, I don't need to then learn how to make press kits. I need somebody who makes press kits to know that if I get a client, I can get the work done for them that I need, rather than being having to only sell them on something I can accomplish. So knowing who's around you, if it's somebody that's in um, design, if it's anybody that's in, if you're more of an engineer, usually you need somebody who's more outgoing to be a client project, representative for you. But if you're more of a marketer, and you're more into
Mhm.
the excitement of marketing and selling people on things, maybe you need a few other back office people to help you set up your business and your all of your support. Those are just ideas, but I would
Mhm.
say start with that, and you'll find out because it will evolve along the way. I've had different partners at different times. At sometimes you're a fit to work with somebody. At sometimes you're just not a fit to work with them at that time. And that
Yeah.
happened a lot, throughout those years.
So what do you say to people that are like, they're learning to code, they go to a boot camp, they go to somewhere like Parsity or something like that. They get out, they know how to code pretty well.
Mhm.
At what point they never feel ready? Like, how do you just start? Like, or is there some litmus test to say, okay, now you can freelance and charge money?
You have to try. Uh, you
Yeah,
can't catch a fish without having your line in the water. So, I think
I
at
like
the
that.
point that you are actually looking at or trying to send people a proposal, generating proposals is hard in the beginning. I know. That was one of the biggest things I struggled with was invoicing people. Just because,
I bet.
um, you definitely wanted to get paid on how much you pitched them, but you have to
Mhm.
justify it every time you send them a bill. Like, so you have to have done
Oh,
the work and kinda documented it all, then once they kind of felt like it was delivered, then you could send them the bill. And I'll tell you, being honest, that's not fair for developers. Developers work like a partner. So really what you should do at the bare minimum is get 50% up front, because it takes your time and
Oh,
energy to go ahead
okay.
and work with that person throughout the project. During that whole time, you're taking on risk too, just as much as them. So you need to position yourself a bit better on the lead into, say, hey, if we're gonna do a $1,500 project with you, I need to have 500 just to get started. Somewhere along the lines
How
where
do
they
you
really feel like you're feeling like you're getting paid along the way.
do you charge by the hour typically, or do you charge by the
I
project?
would
And if
only
so,
charge
why?
I would only charge by the hour if it's something I can do continuously that I know how to do. Those projects work very well by the hour because you know how much you can do and how fast you can do it. I would charge on a project based on loose requirements, or putting a
Okay,
number of different things together. They're not all the same. So it's hard to really break down a project that has more than just producing a lot of one thing or doing a lot of the same thing for somebody. If you've got,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
if you've got, 150 pages to build, you're going to want to make sure you account for all of that and add in the bit of overhead that's going to go into it. But if you're doing a brand or you're doing a new design, and build for somebody, and you're doing a bit of that creative work too, I really push more towards the project basis, because you're going to get what they can afford a little bit better dialed in. I think
Mm,
you're going to match their expectations in terms of uh, what they paid for versus what they got.
gotcha. That makes okay. That's kind of the way I've like just done it too. The few times I've done. And here's an interesting one too. I'm sure people are going to want to know this. How like how do you just know what to charge? Like, do you have like a matrix that says, okay,
Hmm.
you want a website, a static site with this
Hmm.
many pages, I'm going to charge
Yep,
you
you have to set your
whatever.
minimum price, and you have to set your minimum price because you have to start talking at that point. That's your starting point with
Mm.
people. Whenever they ask you for an off the cuff estimate, you give them the base price.
And you,
And if, yeah, if that
okay.
doesn't turn them away, then you're fine. Like right, but if it does turn them away, you don't
Yeah.
care. Because go ahead and go
Yeah.
out and get something else for less. And I've had clients do that to me. That was
Yep.
kind of offensive, but at the same time, I knew that was right. Like, that I wasn't going to do work for less than a certain amount, because to me, I've put in the effort, and that's what it's worth. So, have to know that, tell people, give them something that they can just get started with and see if that's okay.
Mhm.
Just to get started, it's going to be $850 or whatever. And I heard
Mhm.
somebody else on the phone in a store one time talking to somebody, asking him the same type of question, and he said,
Yeah.
"You shouldn't charge any less for 15 than $500 for a website, or if they are, it better be all perfect. It's a bare minimum site. They give you exactly what you need. You hardly do any work
Mhm.
yourself. That's kind of all. If Other than that, it's everything is extra. If they want different pages, it's going to be extra. If they want different photos, it's going to be extra. If they want different colors, everything is extra after that.
Yeah, I like that.
That was
That's
his advice
really
to somebody
solid advice.
just getting
It's really
started.
good. It's really good. Uh, I'm curious what you think about this. So people are freaking out over AI taking jobs, but
Yeah.
also people might think, why do you need a freelancer if you have like Webflow or, one of the many other low code slash no code tools?
Hmm.
What do you say to that? Because it's obvious they haven't taken away the need for people making sites, but yeah, what's your take on that?
Yeah. AI is new for sure, but there's an age old classic struggle between what computers can do and what humans could do. And the classic struggle is this. Um, Humans can do two types of work. They can do logical sequential work, and looking up references and gathering information and kind of doing that. And then they can do this creative thinking and creative problem solving thing. And what we've done is
Mhm.
we've invented computers to do the logical sequential work way faster than we can do. And the premise of that is that it gives us more time to do the creative work, to do maybe what we call the interesting stuff, or the free thinking. But we have yet to be able to really either get computers to do that very well, but really the joy is that we would get to do more of that and less of the uh processing work. uh
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree.
well we actually end up entrenching ourselves more in the computer world by being a part of it, and
That's interesting.
not just using it to take our work away, but we actually end up doing more work, and doing more of it. So it's just interesting.
It is. Yeah, it's funny. Like the more things we add, also it seems like software, and maybe this is my own inexperience, it's getting more complex. There's more systems to
Oh
interact with.
yeah,
Things are easier to deploy, but there's more and more systems. There's more complexity. And then you get AI that makes it another tool to leverage.
it
And now
makes
there's tools that
everything
spawn from
really
that.
ambiguous. It's done this for people
Yeah.
where they won't know if a video is fake or real, and they won't,
Oh yeah.
right? How would you know without,
Mhm.
like, now you're totally unsure, right?
Now there's companies making detection software. So it's spawning more industries that now can do that, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
So what AI has done is it's exploded the content world.
Mhm.
So the content world is now really dominated by uh, industrial strength content creation engines and professionals. So there's a whole
Yeah.
suite of tools meant for content creation professionals who are out there representing brands, who are out there, r- being the front end, of a lot of these brands and these businesses, and people with a hope and a dream feel as if that brand is someone is there, the owners are out there with their phone, taking selfies, but there's a lot of other people working behind the scenes, professionals working behind the scenes. So really to get a foothold in the content game and the social media game, you really got to be connected to the content creator branch of this whole industry. Um, Other than that, really, I would say focus on your business, on your core business. Focus on how your process is being sold and where your sales are coming from, understanding your channels, like we call it your lead channels or your different
Mhm.
sources. There's word of mouth, there's a billboard, there's online, and there's in store, right? There's all these different channels. Um, we focus on online a lot because we can really streamline that and really systematize sales on a big scale, and that's the revolution that it is. But if you have any kind of a reputation, you're probably going to want to look more to your local city, state, county, to look for your core customer
Mhm.
base if you feel like that's your strength. Um, and if you're selling software as a service, then, work that brand, work that logo, work that copy, work all of that messaging that you want to put in front of your customers.
Man, that's really good, dude. That's really smart advice. I think like me, especially, I tend to, overly focus perhaps on the internet. And there's a student at Varsity looking for some freelance jobs, and he was going around his local like town, and he went to a barbecue spot. He's like, "Hey, your website sucks. Let me build it for you." And they like knew him as a customer. Said, "Oh yeah, let's do it."
Right.
And I thought that
Right.
interaction just
I
wouldn't
I
take place if you were a stranger online happening.
Nope, it wouldn't. Because that person was a customer, he was already credible, right, with them
Yeah.
as a person. It's the personal rapport of it that also comes into play because nowadays there's a bunch of people who are uh, out there selling services. So if you're going out looking for something, you're gonna find a lot of you honestly, um, there's a real sea of engineers and developers out there looking for work, and everyone knows that you need it. So, um,
Yeah.
but reaching out to somebody and saying, "Hey, I think I can help you," is even
Right.
it's a better pitch, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it worked out for him. I
Yeah,
mean, who knows? Maybe it'll translate to something. If nothing else, it gives him some nice, credible work experience.
yeah. I've done trade arrangements with some of my other freelancing clients.
So you went from freelancing into a full-time job at a corporation for a company. Um, Doing that transfer, what was your interview process like? And what are some tips maybe because you were kind of recently on the job market?
Yeah,
What can you tell people about what they should expect and how to best prepare?
yeah. After I had kind of gained a bit of ground on my freelancing career, somebody I worked with before actually passed me a reference for this job opening. And I took the interview, and essentially, I had the experience that they were looking for in a um, entry level developer at, at at a corporate level, which was the first time I'd ever had a full time salary job. Um, the backstory on that team was they had built a migration of their current website over to WordPress, but they hadn't completed it, and the director, the lead on that team, left. So what they did need was somebody with WordPress experience who could come in and help finish out the project and actually launch the WordPress migration. Um, so I joined that team and then finished out that project. Um, and that became my new team there. So the interview process was first an interview with the other engineer on the team who would become my direct manager, and then a panel. So there was a panel of
Oh,
three other
panel. Yeah.
interviews, three other developers who were on the team. So then they got a round, and then I think I got another round with someone higher up. Um, and that was and the coding interview was a back end coding challenge in WordPress. So I came in for this on
Oh,
site interview. I did 3 rounds. I did a coding challenge, and then I left. So it was all in one.
any data structures and algorithms,
No,
any DSA
mm-mm.
stuff.
No, this was a different
That's what I
no,
thought.
no, it really wasn't. Until later. Until recently, I've been through the job search, and there is a lot of more uh, familiarity that companies have with interviewing, and the interviewing process for engineers has gotten really geared towards doing online coding challenges, doing live coding challenges as a part of the series of interviews that you usually face.
Yeah.
So it could be a
Right.
first round type of live coding interview, or it could be a second round live coding interview if they want to see your skills after they've already talked to you and kind of gotten a general sense of your knowledge.
Yeah. And so that's interesting because people, one, think that like they have this Google style interview in their head that every company like traverse this binary tree. And one, you're saying that was not your interview experience in general,
It is
but it seems like it was more
it
practical.
is in some of the larger tech companies. So
Oh yeah,
in the
for sure.
Fang group and um in the tech space, they definitely gear towards that kind of interview more. But a lot of it really translates to do you have what they need? Can you solve their problem? And in that interview at Checkpoint, they were specifically looking for somebody to solve their problem. If they start asking you about their problem in the interview, like
Mhm.
you know that they are interested and they think you could fit that position for what they need. That's a good sign
Right.
that they are interested in you as well, rather than just having a rote interview process, maybe. Because sometimes I feel companies run through a lot of candidates and just are maybe hiring for depth, or some other team has an open rec. At a larger company, they really don't have as much of a interest in uh, signing somebody on like as urgently as somebody who's maybe looking to fill a crucial role. So the interviews are all different. All of the job,
Hmm.
companies are different, hiring managers are different, and big takeaway from that is you can't really generalize, and every situation is kind of unique.
It's a pretty good point. I've spoken with a ton of developers and I do see some like patterns for sure. But you're right. It's like every company has their own flavor. Everybody's trying to do it better or different than the other one. Like I'm guilty of this too. Like, oh, I'm going to make our interview process like this for our specific need or something like that. And it makes it hard to study. How would you like, what would you tell people that are trying to study
Yeah,
for interviews?
I
Like,
would say look at
what should
job
you be doing?
descriptions. So I got some coaching from some outplacement resources, and one of the things they set me up with was an Excel sheet. And I had for every company I was applying for, I took the job title, pasted in there, their main contact, pasted in the next row, then the job description itself. So I started saving job descriptions from listings that I applied to. And
Okay.
that was super helpful because you start to be able to see a job description that looks good for you versus
Hmm.
trying to get yourself credibility on like what the job description is. I feel like when you start to get that as you go through the interview process, the ones that start to look more promising, it will help you learn which job descriptions look right for you.
It's an interesting technique. I like that. You said someone else, like you were part of a program or like
Well,
a
yeah,
mentorship
the
type of
outplacement,
relationship?
yeah, the outplacement. So basically, like an HR coach, a career coach type of person. I've worked with a couple career coach type people. So
Yeah.
that really helped me instead of just focusing on engineering skill and proving that I can code in all the different frameworks, right? And having
Yeah.
that whole laundry list of coding frameworks on my resume was great because I could say I've done things in those frameworks at a company. That's pretty much what it's
Right.
used
Yeah.
for. You want to make sure
You
that
need,
anything on your resume is something you can say that you've done for somebody else in in a context, for me, I'm very senior, so on a production scale at like a large company, that shows that I really know how to use that thing. But even if you've
yeah.
done it for a client, one of the one of the good interviews I had, somebody said, "I can tell you really know all the stuff you put on your resume. Half of the people I interview, they can't answer a couple simple questions about it, and yet they claim they know this stuff." And I just thought that was so
Yeah. That's
interesting.
a dangerous
Yeah.
move. Yeah.
So
Putting the laundry list of like half all the programming languages and being a DevOps shop. It's dangerous move. Yeah.
it is, but I fell into that exact same trap myself, so I understand.
We all, I think, common. Yeah. I've done it too. You think more is better. And sometimes it can be. I mean, that's the thing is it's really hard to get like a single approach that works for everybody.
Hey, if
Um,
anyone you know has had a good experience with a company that did some work, with an agency or, somebody, look them up and see if they have any openings. There might be a lot less there to look for, but you never know. There might be some niche companies, some small companies around, and go poke and see if they have job openings listed anywhere.
I like your whole approach, like from freelancing to like job hunting. It's like a much more grassroots approach that most people don't do. And one that's not often just talked about online.
Mhm.
People always like the job board here, go here, or here's how to optimize LinkedIn. Like I do that a lot, but you got a really good point. Like use your local network
Yeah,
and make those connections because that's often going to be the things that aren't posted on LinkedIn because a lot of companies
correct.
don't have the budget to post there and they're just looking for referrals anyway. So you might know some guy that you worked with in the past at some completely different uh, type of work that can actually help you out.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah. Hey, I mean, this has been really cool to hear, and I appreciate all the information and like wisdom you've shared here. I've learned quite a lot too, and I know this is going to help a lot of other people out there that want to potentially get into networking. Any last words before we head out?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm really excited to be here. So thank you for having me on. And
Absolutely.
yeah, pretty much my main message is that if you are interested and you want to learn, go ahead and look for those resources because they're out there. And so if you want to learn how to code something, read the documentation. If you want to learn how to market, go to a marketing school and look for their free resources. Start wherever you're at and just get curious about it and just get into it because that's really the best part about doing something you love, and doing a good job at that feels really good, and that like I think gives you the momentum you need to keep going through the hard times and all of the problems that go wrong that of course are gonna happen.
For sure. That's super good advice, man. Thank you so much. Thanks again, man.
Yeah, man, appreciate it, man.
That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. To learn more about becoming a software engineer with us, then check out parsity.io. If you're not quite ready for that, then jump into our dev30.xyz program, which is 30 days of working on your mindset, habits, and JavaScript skills. Totally worth it. See you next week.